Hello everyone, this is Quant. Today I want to introduce you to my Season 9 Sacrifice Paladin from Project Diablo 2. This build was actually really amazing, and this is the character that I played the most in all 9 seasons. I am actually now level 96 and you can see the top damage is ridiculous, 42k. It is super satisfying, very well progression of this character goes along the game, and you have a lot of goals to chase. I really enjoyed a lot, and plus it's actually very fast and very strong, even in the early game, in the mid game, and also in the late game. So I absolutely recommend this. But again, enough of this, let's go into the build itself. And by the way, don't forget to follow me on Twitch for the upcoming season. I will be happy to play with you and just showcase you some other stuff. Alright, the question number 1 is basically a progression. Can you start as Vengeance? Well, there are two answers, yes and no. Basically, you can go the traditional route with a caster, so Holy Bolt, and then go into Feast of Heavens, for example, and farm early, because, you know, sometimes it's easier to get those super cheap caster rune wards to get the cast speed going, couple of skills on top, and farm your Pete and Eldritch, Pindle, and so on until you get some stuff to trade. You can also do Travinkle, of course, but it's a bit more, you know, Monka-esque kind of stuff. But what I did, I actually went full way with Sacrifice. From the very beginning, I was lucky that I was getting some weapons along the way that would upgrade my damage, and I managed to do so. Eventually, I also early on, I believe in Hell, dropped a Mal rune, which then allowed me to create my staple rune word, which is Oath. Of course, this is the beginner's weapon that you should go for in a very early on. And to be honest, even if I didn't drop it, trading something early season for Mal and pull runes is super easy, so you will be able to do it 100%. Whichever version you decide to go with, either caster, Holy Bolt, Feast of Heavens, or Sacrifice directly, you need to go one-hander at the beginning, because you will not have defenses to stay there and tank monsters with your face. That's why Holy Shield is very important early on. You will need to get some kind of decent shield with resistances, maybe some unique, and actually get it going here with more block chances. That's gonna save your life a lot. Around level 85, and if you can get your hands on a good weapon, you can actually switch to Sacrifice. Again, as I said, the early version would be going Oath in one-hander. Two-hander will be a little bit spooky in the beginning because, again, lack of defenses. However, if you get your hands on the Stone rune word, which is again super easy to make, you will be able already with that amount of defense easily go through LOD content. It's gonna be much easier. So then you can potentially switch to two-hander for that extra damage and popping monsters very easily. And by the way, one of the main advantages of this build is the Sacrifice pop that happens after you kill monsters is so satisfying that it's just, I cannot explain this. You have to try it. One last note, I decided to go two-hander because of massive damage and just, you know, role-playing this Demon Slayer two-hander dude, which is, you know, super amazing and looks really cool. Maybe going one-hander is a bit faster because you have lower joust cooldown for mobility, but again, up to you. I think the difference is kind of marginal. Alright, now let's have a look at the build itself. Of course, all the points into Sacrifice. We do also need to put all the points into our synergies, Redemption, and of course Fanaticism. You can see I'm running Fanaticism, and to be honest, it's a godsend. It's so amazing. Attack speed, like you don't need to bother a lot, and even with two-handers you can reach last breakpoint easily. You don't need faith or anything like this. Now, Sacrifice has one problem, that whenever you hit these immunes or undead monsters, you have a lot of problems. You do not leech life, you deal a lot of damage to yourself, which is a challenge. That's why for bosses I typically use Zeal, and sometimes if I see big pack of you know, undead mobs, then you should also use Zeal or maybe Charge. And Charge is going to be a little bit better in the Season 10, so it's going to be slower but work better, so I think it's going to be a good thing for you for sure. Then obviously Holy Sword, you know, big, huge weapon with shiny sword. This is what we need. That's why we almost max out Holy Sword. Again, it provides a lot of parry chance, but then of course with diminishing returns it goes down. Damage to demons and undead also pretty decent. Now in Season 10 this is going to be possible to pre-buff with your swap, so you have way more plus skills, which is great. And again, the extra damage to demons and undead is also very nice here. Finally, For mobility, it's very important to have high level of joust. So basically all the points from like level being 85 or something I've been putting into joust. It is mandatory because that's your mobility, bringing your merc together. Really cannot state more. So I wish there was a chance to bring down the cooldown to like less than 1 second, because you often kill monsters way faster and you need to move faster. Alright, for the defensive auras, as I already said, it's fanaticism over prerequisites, nothing else. And the defensive ones as well. Redemption, maxing it out of course, and over prerequisites, nothing else. Okay, let's talk about gear first, because I think that's the most important. I will explain a little bit the progression that you can take. Despite weapon, the number one thing that you need is a really good source of life leech and ideally life after each kill, because you will be popping big groups of monsters and it will replenish your life. Because remember, you deal damage to yourself, and with huge damage you deal huge damage to yourself, so it's a bit of a problem. That was solved for me with just one item, Dracula's Grasp. Amazing. You can again get it as soon as possible. That's going to be such a huge difference for comfort of play. I would even say that it is also kind of mandatory to really have it and play this build. For the weapon, alright, let's put it straight. I went for the Grandfather. I first bought the 5-socketed one, then I also made it F. There are currently temporary jewels, but they are still on a decent level. Ideally you want runes, because eventually this weapon has so much maximum damage that you benefit more from enhanced damage in the end. There are some calculators out there. Honestly, this is min-maxing, but again, if you don't have money for 30 high runes jewels, then just go with runes. That will be most likely more useful, unless you want to close with 1 or 2 jewels some kind of gaps that you have in the gear. Helmet, for me it's a Veil of Steel. Again, it gives decent amount of enhanced damage. I also put there a jewel with attack speed, grants all skill, strength, vitality, all res, which is also a little bit hard to close in this character, I believe. For the amulet, I went with High Lord's Wrath with Cannot Be Frozen, and this is a temporary solution. Ideally, you go with High Lord's Wrath with ED, because you need that Deadly Strike and you want, extra enhanced damage, but I don't have a good source of Cannot Be Frozen. Eventually, I will replace my armor, which is now Fortitude. Again, very good staple option. There are a few other alternatives. So in the beginning, as I said, you go with Stone for a lot of defense, and then as soon as you can make Fortitude, that's your go-to. Otherwise, Gladiator's Bane with 2 to critical strike also worked amazingly, providing a lot of extra damage, and I think also it has Cannot Be Frozen, so that's gonna be also really good option. Endgame, honestly, it is Curious Might, and I think this is really GG endgame armor with a lot of damage, with a lot of utility, speed, Cannot Be Frozen, all rounder really good. I chose Gold Riders because again we have a lot of damage already, so War Travelers with a little bit of extra min-max damage wouldn't add as much, but I really wanted to have more of Crushing Blow for bosses, more Deadly Strike. Finally, String of Ears, mainly for life leech, but not really necessarily, but mostly again for physical damage reduction. As you can see, this is the only source. I debated maybe it makes sense to replace with Nosferatu's Coil for, extra Deadly Strike, especially with GG Corrupt. Maybe that's a better version. Finally, rings. I ended up using just good rare rings that corrupted, so you can see here bringing up some minimum damage is amazing because we have a lot of max damage but not so much minimum. The more minimum damage you have, the more chances you will one-shot everything and everything will pop immediately, so you don't need to swing second time. And then eventually I was also closing basically all the gaps with rings that I have. I think it was mana, a bit of resistances, and try to get more attack rating and strength and damage overall. The second ring is in the same fashion, high attack rating, dual leech, strength, dexterity, lots of resistances. Of course, there are a bunch of other options for rings, especially early on. You could again use Bullcather's Death Band for enhanced damage, attack rating, and feast damage reduction, which is nice. Can maybe have some extra resistances on it. And of course, early on, Ravenfrost would be probably the most secure source of Cannot Be Frozen for you, so go for it right away. Also, a lot of attack rating in the beginning will be very helpful for you. Lastly, here are just some examples of other rings that I considered using, and I think I used them from some time in this build, so definitely look at your rare rings, they are also really good. And finally, another option, of course, Wisp Projector. The Heart of a Wolverine provides decent damage. I compared and calculated a little bit damage with these two rings. It was better, but again, the difference is already at this level quite marginal, so I looked at what's overall gonna give me more utility, quality of life, while maintaining the damage. Just to give you an idea how different Grandfather is comparing to Oath. So if I take Oath, decently rolled in Ethereal Colossus Sword, and I replace it, it has something like 17k damage less. But again, Oath is pretty good for all your tier 1 and even tier 2 mapping. So this is just opening up for you tier 3 on a very comfortable level. And one more thing about equipment, of course, and gear is your charms. So you have Gid. I did split half of the Pali combat killers with life. The other one is max damage life, because again, you have a lot of max damage with Grandfather, which basically reduces the need for those, and getting flat enhanced damage from Holy Sword and from Sacrifice feels a little bit better. But again, you can combine it, so this way you also, it makes it a little bit easier for you to chase specific charms. You can mix and match, and then of course choose what you need more, FHR or not. Of course, Ani and Torch, and then the rest is basically getting my resistances, a little bit more damage here and there, more life, the usual stuff. Alright, another thing that a lot of people would argue with most likely is the Mercenary. I chose the Blessed Aim Mercenary for extra deadly strength that it provides to me, Templar's Might for the Might Aura, of course, for extra enhanced damage, Asylum for Sanctuary Aura, which is reducing the magical resistance of all the monsters, and half of the damage from Sacrifice is magical when it pops. For me, that was also pretty important. I felt huge difference. For the gloves, I went with Lava Gout. Ominously, they need to be replaced with some 20 IAS other gloves, because I don't need any more Enchant Fire, which provides a lot of attack rating. I don't need it anymore. Maybe some other option would be better. Andario's Visage, again to hit the IS breakpoint with IS Jewel, very nice. Gore Riders, more damage, and cannot be frozen from Trunk's belt. To look at the stats again, I am pretty above on all resistances, so I can even go with minus res maps and so on. Only poison one is not so great. What I mentioned about damage reduction, it's only 15%. Yes, sometimes it could be feeling low, but honestly, with that leech and with that life after each kill, it doesn't matter. So potentially I should really swap out. And the most important is that I hit the maximum IS frame on Sacrifice, 44, 15 Crashing Blow, could be higher, Deadly Strike 31, and with Mercenary it's going to be 50, 55 I believe. Life Leech huge, mana life per kill huge, Mana Leech just enough to sustain attacking. Alright, now actually let's do all the pre-buffs and see how it all looks like in the end. Alright, let's do this here. Now also let's cast Holy Sword and Sacrifice. 17k to 44k damage. Attack rating 14,500 and 3,000 little bit defense, which again brings you to a decent level with monsters not hitting you. I did run Horizon's Memory quite a bit. I do like and dislike it, mostly dislike it for the Decrepify. It's always annoying on builds, but otherwise it's pretty okay. Let's have a look. I'll just show I will do very small demonstration how it all looks like. As you can see, numbers are pretty cool, the speed is pretty good as well. I'm also a little bit rusty, haven't played it for a little bit. If you focus on smaller mobs with lower HP pool, then everything dies way faster. Sometimes, of course, you hit those bigger dudes, the frozen steins or whatever. You can easily go into huge groups and just pop everything. That's the beauty of it, of course. And I don't know, the game is lagging as well for the demonstration, of course. Basically, my DPS was kinda steadily going at 150, 170k in tier 1 maps. If I'm a little bit relaxed, maybe 140, 120, but again, you could see it's totally enough. You're super safe unless you hit the lightning spires, they will kill you immediately. That's the downside, that you have to look a little bit what you play against. But yeah, this is pretty awesome. I really enjoyed it. Okay, I also wanted to show you Phlegethon, which is tier 3 map, and again, I think it works pretty alright. Rebuff and go. It's a little slower, as you can see, but it's less tighter in here comparing to Horizon Memory. But again, I was able to run most of the maps. Of course, you avoid Fizz Immune ones. Magic Immune are kinda okay, but the Fizz Immunes, it's just a little bit annoying. And I know people were suggesting me, that you can, of course, like switch to Zeal and stuff, but if I just want to make a lot of kills and smoothly go through the game, then I don't really want to randomly have like moments where my life pool is kind of going down because I suddenly hit a Fizz Immune monster, so I try to avoid it, especially for longer sessions. Again, it's very satisfying. 1-2 swings, everything dies, and then everything pops along the way. Alright, lastly what I wanted to say is that I hope you enjoy Season 10, and if you choose this build, play around, it's really fun to progress. A couple of things I wanted to show. I actually did like close to 500,000 kills, but again, I'm not the biggest Giga player. It's level 96, the highest I actually got in seasons of PT2 with my play, so I really enjoyed it a lot. And about my deaths, I died 18 times. Mostly in the beginning because of hitting undead monsters and then getting, slapped back, or Fizz Immune monsters. So that usually were the causes of my deaths. Of course, once I learned a little bit, it's much easier to play. So once again, hope you enjoy Season 10 start on the 25th of October. If you like it, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, I would appreciate it a lot, and see you around. Bye!